Hello everyone, greetings to everyone. I hope you are doing well. Thank you for choosing Classroom TZ. And today we are going to discuss the first topic in Form 4 that is going by the name Crisis in a Capitalist System. Once again, in Form 4 we are going to have 4 topics as we viewed in the analysis of the topics in some of the video past day. For reminding, the first topic is called the crisis in a capitalist system. The second topic is called the nationalism and decolonization process in Africa. The third one, it is social and economic development in Africa after independence, sometimes referred to post-independence in Africa. And the fourth one is going by the name African International Affairs, those international organization, continental organization, the issue about UN, East Africa Community, SADC, Commonwealth, and the other organization that formed in the world after the end of colonialism. So, without further ado, let's go on in the crisis of capitalist system. In this topic, we are going to learn the following crisis. The word crisis. So we have the following problems that torture the capitalist system, and mainly we are saying in Western countries, those the founders of capitalism. So we have the First World War in 1914 to 1918. The second crisis we're going to discuss is the Great Economic Depression of 1929 to 1933. And the third crisis we are going to discuss is Second World War of 1939 to 1945. These are the basics of our topic, or the study of our topic. We will learn 3 crises happened in a capitalist system. But the big question is, why are we discussing capitalist issues? How does it relate to Africa? As I said, in history from 1 to Form 4 4-year course, mainly we are learning Africa history, pre-colonial Africa, colonial Africa, and the post-colonial Africa. But this topic is inserted here because it is affected Africa. And the time while this crisis happened in the world, the Africa was under colonialism, and the main colonial masters were the one who were affected with this crisis. So in one way or another, that is the way how Africa affected by this crisis. That's why we are discussing crisis in the capitalist system while we are in Africa. And for today we are going to learn the first crisis, that is First World War. But before going First World War, let's check here the series of the events in the crisis. Number 1, the First World War. This was the first crisis. The second was the League of Nations of 1920. After the First World War, then the winner or the victory side, they decided to form an international organization that will keep the world peace, going by the name of League of Nations. And after League of Nations, unfortunately, or how League of Nations failed to work effective, then we go into the Great Economic Depression. After Great Economic Depression, the world suffered the Second World War. Second World War, this showing that ineffective of League of Nations. So they would check the First World War as the first crisis. So what the First World War? When we say First World War, sometimes in short form it will be written WW1, that numeral number, or WW Roman number 1. All of those mean First World War. This was the Great War, occurred on July 28th, in 1914 up to 11 November in 1918. It involved the 2 military camps known Triple Alliance, sometimes Central Power, of the Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, and Triple Entente allies of the Britain, France, and Russia, and later on the USA joined the war in 1917. By such a simple definition, what does it mean? This was the coalition of this big nation in the world. In this big nation, they were in two military camps, Triple Alliance and Triple Entente. And is referred as a Great War because before that, there's no war related in the same feature like the First World War. That's why the historians and other people, they named it First World War. The word First World War existed until the occurrence of the Second World War. Before the occurrence of Second World War, it recorded that was the Great War or the First World War, because it is magnitude, it is effective, and the participant and the tools used, it was so effective comparing to those small wars appeared before. So that's why it was named the First World War or Great War. Marked it happened in 1914 up to 1918. Another important thing to understand or to remember, it is the participant. In historical events, we care about time, place, participants, and the other case like effect. But in introduction, make sure you know the meaning, that is the Great War. Who fought? Here we have the military camps. These military camps are Triple Alliance and Triple Entente. And you should understand who were the member of every military camps. In Triple Alliance, we have German, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. Although the participation of Italy, it is neutral, and later on Italy joined the Triple Entente, and that before joining of Italy, Triple Entente, it was based with Britain, France, and Russia, and later on USA joined the war. The line at the end is stated that the war ended with the victory of Allies power, and these Allies power were the one who formed the League of Nations. That's the brief meaning of what is the First World War. Then we have this concept. Why it called the World War? Number one, it was a war for controlling the world. The winning side will conquer the world in all aspects. So during the fighting, they were meaning that the one who will be the winner, he will control the world in economy, in social, and the political matters, because he's going to be the winner of the war. In that way, British, France, and USA, they are planning to control the world. And we are going to check it after the end of this war. USA grabbed the first place at the world economy or super capitalist power. So, and somehow, the war implemented the case like to find who will control the world, and the USA controlled the world. It was the largest war. Remember, we are saying why it was called the World War. It was the largest war. None of the country ever fought the war like this, larger than Napoleon, which was the last bigger war. They said more than 135 countries participated. So you can see the number of participants. If the number of participants are like this, so you can assume or you can imagine the geographical size of this coverage of the war. That's why it was called the World War. It affected the entire world. Its effect affected the entire world. No one left behind on the effect of the World War. The most affected the death of the people. It estimated 15 million people died in the First World War. So it was a bigger effect. That's why it was referred the World War. All continents were involved. So all continents that support human life, they were involved, except Antarctica. So all Africa, Europe, North and South America, all of them, they were the party of this war. And the last fought by great nation. We should understand in this world, current and before, there are some of countries that represent the world. Example, current, when USA is affected, some head you may head, or you can read like the world is in tension or the world is not going good. But while it is only USA affected, when USA economy is going down, we are saying the world economy is going down. Why are we referring USA as the world representative? Because the great nation. So even during the First World War, the country that involved during that time were the great nation. The country like Germany, the country like Britain, the country like USA itself, the country like Russia, France, all these were the big nations that represented the world economy or the status of the world. So when these fathers of the nation are fighting, we are saying the world is in the war. One thing to remember here, when you say world war, does it mean like everywhere on the land of the world there is war? There was the war. Like even to the interior of your father's village, the war occurred. It's not mean like that. We are going by representative way. Example, when there is COVID in Dodoma, outside you say there is COVID in Tanzania. Does not mean in Tanzania everywhere there is COVID, but only in one place, in Dodoma. When the mountain Kilimanjaro is centered in Kilimanjaro, we say in Tanzania there is mountain Kilimanjaro. But does not mean in everywhere in Tanzania you find the mountain Kilimanjaro. It's going by representation. So even in this world war, not everywhere in the world the war occurred. Every piece of the land, every village, every world, or every district they fought. No. But even one part of your place or one part of your country involved in the war, we said that country was in the war. Example, Tanganyika those days, and Kenya, they fought on behalf of their colony masters. Does not mean in Tanganyika everywhere we are fighting on behalf of Germany, or everywhere in Kenya they are fighting on behalf of Britain. No, smaller part of the Kenya and smaller part of Tanganyika they were fighting, and that smaller parts they were representing Tanganyika or Kenya, and at large Africa. So these were the reasons that showing why it is called the World War. Causes of the First World War. Causes of the First World War. What triggered the occurrence of this Great War? We have two parts of these causes. We have immediate cause and the long-term causes. The occurrence of World War I or WW1, it was led by the immediate cause or long-term causes. Immediate cause, that was the spark happened, and that small spark caused the forest to catch fire at the same time. While long-term causes are those collection of different factors which started many years ago before the eruption of the war. In immediate cause we have one, while in long-term cause we have many causes. We are going to check the correction of those causes. But in immediate cause we have the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sofia in the Sarajevo, capital of Bosnia. Let's check the immediate cause in relation to the occurrence of the First World War. Dear friends, dear students, make sure you understand every point and explain to the connection of the occurrence of the war. Remember, you are in Form 4. The level of your questions are different to Form 1 and Form 2. In Form 4, mainly you are not care about mention your list. We want you to explain, to discuss, to analyze. So how can you explain if you don't have the concept? You will start around the bush. So let's check the immediate cause. The title of the immediate cause is called the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sofia. So the concept is like this. He was assassinated by a Serb student called the Gavrilo Princip. After the assassination, Austria-Hungary declared war over Serbia. Point to understand here. Austria-Hungary was a single country, and at that time Austria-Hungary she was dominating Serbia. Serbia was under Austria-Hungary. And remember, Serbia is among those Balkan states. So Serbia, it was under Austria-Hungary. What Serbs done, it was the action of nationalism to find the independence, to find their freedom from Austria-Hungary. So to show that they are looking for the independence, they assassinated the Austria-Hungary Archduke, the one who was prepared to be leader in the future, that is Franz Ferdinand. So the point to note here, it is Serbia assassinated Austria-Hungary citizen, and that Austria-Hungary citizen, the country where that citizen come from, that is Franz Ferdinand, it was the country dominating Serbia. So Serbia, it was under Austria-Hungary. Point number 2. Then Russia supported Serbia of Austria-Hungary. This made Germany to wage war over Russia. Coming of Germany made Britain and France to fight. to fight against Germany, and later Italy joined Allied power. So we are connecting dots. Austria-Hungary was promised the unconditional support by Germany in any situation, and that unconditional support, it was including even military support. So when Serbia assassinated Franz Ferdinand, Austria-Hungary gave Serbia a very strong ultimatum, like he wanted to know how assassination happened. And finally, Serbia did not cooperate with Austria-Hungary. That made Austria-Hungary very, very furious and initiated war over Serbia. Serbia had friends, and the friend of Serbia was Russia. Then when Russia saw Serbia is under attack, Russia supported Serbia. And Austria-Hungary had a friends. That friends was the first one, it was German. So when German saw my friend is beaten, German joined the war to defend the Austria-Hungary interest. So you can check the war is starting to expand. At the beginning, the war was between two countries, Serbia and the Austria-Hungary. But because of long-term cause we are going to discuss there, military alliance, the relationship or the unity in military cases, it led to the expansion of the war. So friends of Austria-Hungary joined to defend the Austria-Hungary interests. Those friends of Austria-Hungary was German. Germany had friends. Friend of Germany was Italy. And the near side, Russia had friends. Friend of Russia was Britain and France. So all those joined to defend the first cause of that spark, that is Serbia and Austria-Hungary. And because of that military alliance, at the end, the war happened. That is how the assassination of Franz Ferdinand caused the First World War. The main point note are those friends of these both sides, the friend of Serbia and the friend of Austria-Hungary. That is all. And then we have long-term causes. Before that event of assassination there in Bosnia, Sarajevo, there were some of reasons happened before. These European nations, they had it, and they don't know where they can use at the point. So here we have some of reasons happened before, and they are included at the cause of the First World War. Number one, existence of military alliance or military camps. As we defined in the definition, the military alliance, those triple alliance and triple entente, these were the main cause of the First World War. Why existence of military alliance led to the occurrence of the war? The danger of friends. They said, I have my friend and you have your friend. When I beat you, your friend will join to beat me. And when your friend beat me, my friends will join to beat your friends. That's how the conflict will go larger. So even during the First World War, WW1, this military alliance, Germany, Italy, Austria-Hungary, British, Russia, USA, this friendship led to the expansion of the war. In other language, non-existence of military alliance, no world war, because the war will end up with Serbia and Austria-Hungary. But because of this military alliance, the war sparked all over the world. Another long-term cause, it is European expansionism. Europeans wanted to expand their territory, and sometimes this expansionism is referred as imperialism, and in the other language simply is called colonialism. This expansionism created tension in the world, and this expansionism, it was led by superpower that were Britain and France. Britain and France used to grab very potential areas in the world, especially in Africa and some part of Asia. This grabbing of the potential area in the world created tension to some of European countries. Why France and Britain are very forward to grab those lands? Because of this expansionism, European nations collide in some of the potential areas. The more France and Britain grabbed land, the more Germany wanted also to grab the area in Africa. So expansionism or imperialism, the main idea it created tension in the world, like who is going to have many colonies, who are going to have many areas colonized by him or her. Militarism and arm race. This was a competition on who had the strong weapons. one thing to understand, we don't have war without weapons. So present of weapons, that is the present of war. Do you remember in Berlin Conference, among the resolution of Berlin Conference, they said no shipping of sophisticated weapons or strong weapons in Africa. Why they said so? Because they understood the more we have strong weapons, the more we have good weapons, the more we're going to have big war. Currently, in 2025, there is the war between Ukraine and Russia. Why this war still progressing? Because of military accessories or weapons. So absence of weapons, we are going to have just like a Cold War, and that is not a very, very strong war. So militarism and the unrest led the occurrence of the war, because European nations, they were competing who had the strong weapons. And at the end, where are we going to apply these weapons? This is my big question always I'm asking. We are very busy in production of nuclear currently, nuclear weapons, atomic bombs. Then where are we going to apply these atomic bombs? As we are going to check the first application of atomic bombs in the Second World War, when we say applied to Japan, then if we learn the lesson on the effect of atomic bombs during Second World War, why the world currently is very busy to produce those nuclear weapons? For what purpose? So the more we are going to have strong weapons, I cannot imagine the Third World War how it's going to be. If the first and second was like that, with that poor technology, now we have very advanced technology with those drones. How that war is going to be? But the point is, existence of the weapons, the larger we are going to have the war. And here our point is the militarism and arms. Militarism, the increase of military, have a strong and bigger military force. And the arms, that was a competition of making strong weapons. The point is, where are we going to apply those strong weapons and this big military force? Next one is the Balkan crisis. Balkan crisis. Balkan crisis, this was the crisis of Balkan states. And this Balkan state are far like Albania, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Kosovo, Montenegro, Serbia, Slovenia, and North Macedonia. These Balkan states, former, they were colony of Ottoman Empire, that in Turkey. When Ottoman Empire collapsed, this state became free. These are small states, not bigger like those European countries. They are smaller countries. So when they became free, European or Western countries, they were struggling who will control these Balkan states. And in one way or another, they used their crisis to support, and at the end, the winning side is going to control the Balkan state. So Britain and France supported some country or some state of Balkan state to win against the other state. Remember, Balkan crisis, it was the crisis among these Balkan states. It was not fighting like Balkan state joined to fight one European nation or some country. No, it was a crisis between those Balkan states, internal crisis. So how it connected the WW1? It connected WW1 because European nations input some of effort to support one side or other side, and the winner is going to control those Balkan states. So Germany supported number of Balkan states, British and France supported number of Balkan states in the Balkan crisis, by aiming that at the end of the war, when we are going to win, we are going to take some part of Balkan states. We're supposed to be very, very careful with the aids and the grants we are given by those Western countries. It's going by some of their conditions. Now we are seeing in 2025, we are seeing how USA is fighting with Ukraine, how Ukrainian president and Ukraine citizens, they are going to pay the aids they were given in the war during Russia and Ukraine. USA said, President of USA, Donald Trump, he said, how are we going to benefit back the aid we gave you? And the USA president said, those were the tax of USA citizens. How those USA citizens are going to benefit with that aid? So you can see Ukraine now is in problem. It's about to sign one of the difficult contract of some of minerals because of the aid. The same case during Balkan crisis. Some of European countries support those Balkan states by aiming that at the end we are going to win certain part of Balkan states. And hence is Balkan crisis, then WW1. Another one, it is European nationalism. European nationalism, as later on we're going to discuss African nationalism. Also, European countries, they had its own nationalism. It is to defend their territories and also to expand their territory. In European nationalism, we have two cases here. Case number one, it is assassination of Archduke Ferdinand by Serb citizens. So, because of the desire of Serbs to get their independence, to be free from Austria-Hungary, that's why it led to the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, and hence WW1. Another European nationalism case, it is the Franco-Prussian War of 1870-1871, when Germany won against France. Then, during that war, France lost the two colonies, that is Alsace and Lorraine. So France was fighting back in WW1 by aiming that if I'm going to defeat Germany, I can bring back my colony or my province that were Alsace and Lorraine taken during Franco-Prussian War. So because of this European nationalism, it led the WW1. Now you can check all these long-term causes happened before, but what triggered the war to happen? That immediate cause. All this issue of European nationalism, Balkan crisis, European balance of power, we're going to check all those happened before. The last one, it is European balance of power. They wanted to make sure no one is above another Europe nation in power. That's why they went in the war. If British is going to be powerful than the other European nation, we are sure that one day British is going to conquer us. If Germany is going to be powerful than the other European nation, one day Germany will conquer some of European nation. So to avoid that notion, to make sure that situation is not going to happen, they support to have European balance of power. And that's why they went in the war, to balance European power, economically, politically, and socially, especially politically and economically, to make sure no any European nation is more advanced politically or economically, that way he or she can come and conquer other European nation. My dear students, those are some reasons of WW1. In this case is universal case. Everywhere they are learning this. There's no WW1 of Kenya or WW1 of Uganda, WW1 of Nigeria or America. All people in the world, they are learning this topic the same, WW1. What does it mean? The point I analyzed here, they might not be so enough to you to understand. If they're not enough for you to understand, you have the wide range. Go and search on social media, on the internet, and so far you can get more informations. One thing I can approve to you, anything you're going to learn about WW1, the same case like what we discussed. What so necessarily make sure you learn the meaning of WW1, the causes of WW1, and the effect of WW1 on Africa. Full stop. Don't go further of that. When you go further of that, you are going out of the syllabus, and that can be benefit on your own life, not in NECTA examinations. So if you get the chance and maybe this presentation is not enough to you, you can go and search, because this is universal case. Not like the case of maybe Abu Shir al-Banhai resistance happened only in smaller party, and some of historians, they didn't record it enough, so you can only find it in different documents. But this one, the famous event, everywhere they are discussing about this, so you can get more informations about this event. What I'm doing is just a prior and a pilot to direct you what you're supposed to get. So those were the causes of WW1. Then after the occurrence of WW1 led the occurrence of this conference called the Versailles Peace Treaty or Paris Peace Conference. This action happened after the end of WW1, and it's still like this. The Treaty of Versailles signed in June 1919 at the Paris of Versailles in Paris, France, at the end of World War I. Codified peace terms between the victorious, that is Allies, and German. So you can see here, Germany she termed it as the cause of WW1, and they signed the peace between the Victoria side, that was Britain, France, USA, and Russia, against the German. The big four leaders of Victoria's Western nations were Wilson of United States, David Lord, George of Great Britain, George Clemenceau of France, and Vittorio Orlando of Italy dominated the peace of negotiation in Paris. So what is the Versailles Peace Treaty? This was the treaty signed in Paris in order to end the war. The peace is signed as the beginning of the peace situation in the world after WW1. Who were the main big four? It was Britain, France, Italy, and the USA. That is all about the Versailles Peace Treaty. And they signed those big four against the German. What is so necessary here, and sometimes they to ask how Versailles Peace Treaty led the occurrence of Second World War. So be careful. In the Versailles Peace Treaty, they imposed some of terms over German, and those terms were so harsh to German that why it turned back and German caused the Second World War. Let's check the agreement of the Versailles Peace Treaty to German. Terms of Germany were like this: disarmament. Germany, she forced to reduce the size of military force, so they planned to weaken Germany in military force. So they forced Germany to do disarmament, deny of the chance to join League of the Nation. After Versailles Peace Treaty, the President of USA, Wilson Woodrow, provided 14 points, and inside of those 14 points, Wilson Woodrow suggested the establishment of the international organ that will control the world peace, and that international organ, it was referred League of Nations. That League of Nations, it was international organ for the aim of control world peace, and unfortunately, the Big Four denied Germany to join the League of Nations. So Germany, she was isolated, neglected by European nations. Reparation payment. Germany, as a cause of the war, First World War, she told it to pay back the compensation of the loss it caused in the world, and that payment, it was estimated euro 6.6 billion, about 6.8 USD in the exchange rate of 2024. Very, very, very big, huge of money, very, very big amount of money. Germany, she's supposed to pay back as the cause of WW1 and to repay or to repair the destruction he caused during First World War. All these terms turned back and became the causes of Second World War. Why Germany used this term? To cause Second World War. The territorial terms. Germany lost African territories. Those were Tanganyika, Rwanda, Burundi, Togo, Cameroon, Namibia. In the territorial terms, Germany, she was asked to withdraw some of her colonies in Africa. And those colonies were Tanganyika, Rwanda, Burundi, Togo, and Cameroon, and Namibia. That's why in Tanganyika, we have the transition from Germany, we transferred it from Germany to Britain. War Guilt Clause was the statement that Germany was responsible for the beginning of World War. Germany forced it to agree and to sign. You are the reason, or you are responsible for the occurrence of the First World War. So the term Germany are the first country to rise up armed outside of Serbia and the Austria-Hungary to fight against the other country. Germany should stay away from the conflict between Austria-Hungary and the Serbia. So because Germany were the first outsider country to start war out of these two countries, Serbia and Austria-Hungary, they said, Germany, you are the cause of WW1. These were very, very harsh, strong terms to Germany. And because of this, we're going to discuss later in the Second World War, led the rise of Adolf Hitler, and Adolf Hitler want to revenge the world, then caused the Second World War. That is not the case of today. Today we are going to be discussing the First World War. So these were the terms of Versailles Peace Treaty. All of these terms were the very, very harsh terms to Germany. So the impact of the First World War in Africa. How Africa affected with the First World War. These are the effects of First World War in Africa, and here is where we are discussing WW1 when we are Africans. We fought the war, we are affected with the war, that's where we are discussing. So we are the party of the war. Germany lost their colonies in Africa. We studied there in Versailles Peace Treaty. Spread of diseases, example flu, because of interaction and communication between different soldiers. Death among Africans, especially German colonies, Tanganyika and Togo. These German colonies were Tanganyika and Togo. This Tanganyika and Togo, they are fighting on behalf of their colonial masters. So during the war, most of Tanganyika people died and most of Togo people died. Extreme exploitation. After the war, colonial masters increased the level of exploitation in order to repair or to revamp the distracted economy. Cut down of colonial government expenditure. They reduce the expenditure of their government, at least to make sure they can be able to deal with the situation after the war. Everywhere after the war, the first part is going to be affected out of social areas. It is the economic aspect. During the war, people are not producing. During the war, most of property are distracted. So when the war is over, we're supposed to have the time on how to repair again our infrastructure. So to go on with that situation, colonial government cut down the colonial expenditure, mean that they reduce the salaries, they reduce the level of spending in order to make sure they are going to be together with the situation after the war, because the economy was down. Rise of social welfare associations. These social welfare associations rose due to the intensive exploitation. So they came up in order to fight for their rights. Example, Kilimanjaro Native Cooperative Union. It was centered in Kilimanjaro, with the farmers who were farming coffee. So it was the organization that emerged after the intensive exploitation, that exploitation caused by the WW1. So Africans, they were finding how they can unite and try to speak one voice against this intensive exploitation. Example of those welfare, it is Kilimanjaro Native Cooperative Union. There are so many welfare, farmers welfare, tribal welfare, trade association, trade union, all those formed after WW1 are the voice of Africans to fight against intensive exploitation caused by the WW1. Fall of prices of African commodities. Most of African commodities, especially cash crops, the price of it went down. Why? The world economy was down, no one have money in pocket, the industry are empty, industry are distracted. So in that way, most of commodities from Africa cut down in order to compensate the distracted economy. And the last one, introduction of colonial development schemes. These schemes, they were introduced as a solution of the effects of the negative effects of First World War in economy. Example, there in Mpwapwa, they introduced the groundnut scheme as an agricultural scheme. The place where the agriculture is not practiced, so they established the agricultural schemes to grow groundnut as a solution of the effects of WW1. My dear students, those are the cases of WW1, from the meaning of WW1, the causes of WW1, the Versailles Peace Treaty, and after that we discussed the effect of WW1, and after the effect of WW1, the main important issue again or concept, it is League of Nations, still in the concept of World War I, the first crisis, and not yet the second, not yet the third crisis. So after WW1, historians, economists, politicians, they observed how the world it was slaughtered, how the world it was a live of blood. As we said, almost like 15 million people died, and it was referred to a great war. So none of the world country explains the war like this. So the question is, how can we rescue this situation in the future? how can we avoid the occurrence of this situation in the future. So we can say in other language, the world learned the lesson about WW1. And to prove they learned the lesson, they initiated or they introduced an international organization that will control the world peace. And you should understand, before WW1, there were no any institution that is responsible to control the development of military force weapons internationally. Every country, she was free to develop further. She can go in a military way in the other area. So, after recently peace treaty, Wilson Woodrow proposed the establishment of League of Nations. It is still like this. For the first worldwide intergovernmental organization, whose principal mission was to maintain world peace. That the foremost, to maintain the world peace, founded on 10 January 1920, following the Paris Conference that ended the First World War. It ceased the operation on 20 April 1946. The headquarters was Geneva, Switzerland. So in 1946, after the end of WW2, League of Nations collapsed and they formed another strong organ, that is United Nations. So before United Nations, we had League of Nations. The difference between the sum of advancement and League of Nations learned the challenge that caused the collapse of, United Nations learned the challenge that led the collapse of League of Nations, and United Nations advanced more than League of Nations. Example number of participants, United Nations had many members comparing League of Nations. The headquarters of League of Nations in those days, it was Geneva, Switzerland. Beginning of League of Nations, or the genesis of League of Nations. League of Nations has its origin in a 14-point speech of President Woodrow Wilson, the USA President. Part of presentation given in January in 1918 outline of his idea for peace after the carnage of WW1. Wilson commissioned an organization that was charged with resolving conflict before they exploded into bloodshed and warfare. Britain, France, Italy, and Japan were the 4 permanent members of the organization. As current in United Nations, we have those Security Council members, we say powerful or veto power country, were 5. And even during League of Nations, there were these permanent members and the founder or co-founder of the League of Nations, Britain, France, Italy, and Japan. Unfortunately, USA was not a member of League of Nations. She was the causer or the founder of this, but she was not member of League of Nations. They said at that time she was practicing isolation policy. But unfortunately, in 1939, WW2 break out. The occurrence of WW2, it was the sign that League of Nations failed. So before going to check the occurrence of WW2, let's check the weakness of League of Nations, and that weakness led to the occurrence of WW2. Number 1, League of Nations suffered from few members. Big nations like Russia, USA, and Germany were not members. So if you are missing this key figure in the world, how can you control the world peace? One member of those who are outside can touch the world peace. Example, it was Germany. If Germany was among of the League of Nations, I'm sure they can use diplomatic way to cool down all the crises that occurred or Germany suffered from it, and they can erupt or they can take away the Second World War. But because Germany was out and Germany was a big nation, then Germany used that chance of being isolated to launch the Second World War. Absence of its own arm. This was a big, very, very big problem. League of Nations, it was depending on the members' military forces, armed forces. So when there is a war, we're supposed to sit down and choose this number from this country, from this country, from this country. that kind of military forces, there's no connection, there's no unity or united sense, because they are coming from different party. So because we don't know each other, it was so hard to fight that enemy while we are coming from different places. So absence of this military force led the occurrence or led to the collapse of League of Nations. Versailles Peace Treaty. Versailles Peace Treaty created a burden to League of Nations due to the harsh term imposed over Germany. In short, we can say Versailles Peace Treaty sold the broken car to the League of Nations. Versailles Peace Treaty caused or posed down a very, very difficult situation or conditions to Germany, and those conditions was very, very tough for Germany to implement. And they knew, I don't know, like Germany is going to be harsh. So how are we going to end down these situations? They established the League of Nations. And they said, your League of Nations, go and handle these situations. While those situations were very, very tough to Germany. Economic deficit. Member states affected mostly in WW1. Number 5, failed to disarmament. Great nation keeps in embrace. They agreed to disarm, but at the end, the League of Nations failed to control the progress of military forces into different countries. Manchuria crisis. This crisis, Japan invaded China. Japan was among members of League of Nations and was the cause of the attack to the other countries. Failed to win USA membership. USA was a big nation, developed nation, but unfortunately, she was not among of the League of Nations. So they missed the support of USA. By saying so, that's enough about WW1. Next class, we are going to check Great Economic Depression at the second crisis. Ciao.